With season release right around the corner, many players still question, why even use a defender when you can simply dodge? In today's video, we're going to take a closer look into Ben to see if he's just as bad as everyone makes him look like. As someone who even tested and played Ben as a DPS for quite a while, I know how good and bad Ben can be in your team. Weapons, discs, mechanics, builds, everything will be covered here, so you can get ready to use Ben and change a bit how you see defenders in the game. Let's start with a quick overview of Ben's stats. He gets base attack and energy regeneration when leveling up his core, and this is really good for him because he relies a lot on his EX special. Ben's core also gives extra flat attack based on his initial defense, giving him the highest starting attack between all agents. Many players use him as a stunner, but he also lacks stun potential due to the low impact and daze multipliers. Despite hitting really hard, Ben suffers from a huge problem. He's super slow. If you're looking for some extra damage or extra protection for your units, then leveling up Ben's core skill is quite important for you. His additional ability is what makes Ben quite interesting for some teams. His shield is going to give a total of 16% crit rate for free as long as the shield stays on the unit. This is double the amount Woodpecker Electro 2-piece effect is going to give for your DPS. Ben's basic attack is honestly really bad. It's a 3-hit string with decent damage and daze numbers, however, as you can see here, it's really long. Not to mention, it only deals physical damage. You can reduce some of this field time by swapping to the next unit right after starting your basic attack 3 or even basic attack 2 animation. Dash attacks works as your basic attack 1, however, they are even longer than your basic attack. Dodge counters are quite interesting. They are fast, deals a good damage, and also good daze on the enemy. The only issue here is that you probably don't want to dodge enemy attacks, and instead you want to parry using your EX special. Ben's entire kit revolves around his EX special. You enter into a defensive stance, which gives a shield while holding the special attack button. When you release it, Ben deals fire damage in front of him. You can also use a follow-up, dealing even more damage and applying Ben's core shield for your team. If you block an enemy hit, you get a satisfying sound and increased damage. Just remember to swap right after starting his follow-up to avoid wasting field time. Defensive assists have below average multipliers, and chain attacks is just as bad as his basic attack. It deals a good damage, but the whole animation takes around 2.2 seconds off your stun timer. Finishing the chain sequence with Ben also leaves you way too far from the enemy, and the only way to avoid this is using a dash right after the attack finishes. Surprisingly, his ultimate is actually good, maybe the second best part of Ben's kit. It deals a good amount of damage, and the animation is super fast. Now that you understand all of his kit and best points, let's talk a little bit about his gameplay. As expected, Ben relies a lot on his EX special blocks in order to deal damage, daze, and also support your team. You should still dodge enemy attacks, since you need to keep the shield up to benefit from Ben's crit rate. He's usually played as a stunner because playing him as a DPS requires a lot of investment for underwhelming return. You also need another DPS to cover stun windows, since you can't parry the enemy for extra damage if they are not going to attack you. Playing him as a pure shielder is not a good idea, since defensive and protective stats are not going to increase your damage. It's better for you to learn patterns and dodge properly. There's no specific rotation this time. Ben's gameplay requires quick reflexes and enemy knowledge, so changing your rotation on the fly is really important. But to give a general idea, your top priority should be using Ben's EX special and defensive assists. Using basic attacks while waiting for the enemy attack is fine, but take care with his basic attack 3 animation because you can't use your EX special while in the air. With the general gameplay explained, let's talk about the skill upgrade priority. If you're looking for low investment and low field time Ben, your top priority should be your EX special and assists, followed by chain attacks, base attacks, and dodges. Core can be level up if you're looking for some extra shield or damage, however, this is not going to change how fast you stun the enemy. For a more on-field and DPS Ben, look for his EX special, followed by core skill, basic attack and chain attacks, dodges, and finally assists. Now that you understand Ben's gameplay and priorities, let's take a look on Ben's build to maximize your potential. I'm even going to include an experimental build here, which I can't test it because it requires one of the 1.2 new sets. Starting with the usual support stunner ban, which is the go-to for maximum utility and low investment, you should go for Protopunk 4-piece, Shockstar Disco 2-piece, attack or defense on disc number 4, fire damage or defense on disc number 5, and impact on disc 6. I usually recommend running a full 2-piece setup, however with the new sets, Protopunk is now the best set for ban. The 4-piece effect increases your whole squad damage potential, and the 2-piece effect also lets you run less defense and still get a decent shield. 4-piece Shockstar Disco isn't that great since it only works for basic attacks, and 4-piece Zenless is interesting, however, I would leave this for another unit. For the 2-piece choices, you can go for Zenless, which increases your energy regeneration for more EX specials, Shockstar Disco, which increases impact, and Soul Rock for increased shield and a little bit of damage. Pick the one with best stats and you're ready to go. Running defense gives higher shields and also higher damage potential if you're running his signature weapon. Otherwise, attack on disc 4 gives more damage for you. And for his weapons, since this build is focusing on stun potential, then Original Transmorpher is your best choice. The effect can be activated when blocking the enemy with your assist or EX specials. You can also run any stun engine with impact as secondary stat, and it still works better than going for his signature weapon. Next up, we have a DPS build. By using Ben's crit rate from his additional ability, you can deal some damage while still providing utility for your squad. For this build, go for Woodpecker Electro 4-piece and Infernal Metal 2-piece. Crit damage or crit rate on disc 4, fire damage on disc 5, and attack on disc 6. Woodpecker Electro 4-piece is the best choice, assuming you are planning to keep him on the field. It gives combat attack, and pairing this with Ben's really high attack, it can scale to some high numbers. Infernal Metal 4-piece isn't that great because Ben will struggle to keep the enemy burning. And if you don't plan to use him as a sustained DPS, then just use 2-piece effects. You can pick between Infernal Metal, Woodpecker Electro, Hormone Punk, and Soul Rock. As for disc stats, defense only works if you're not fielding Ben that much and you're also using his signature weapon. Otherwise, always go for attack. Now, for weapons, despite Ben's signature weapon giving a good extra damage, the effect can only be activated every 7.5 seconds, meaning that for a high field time, it's not the best option. Instead, you should go for Bunny Band, which is craftable and gives combat attack as long as you can keep the shield on Ben. Royal Suppressor Max 6 can be used since there's no good offensive option for defenders. This is a limited S-rank weapon, so don't go for it just to use it on Ben. And now remember that I said that there is an experimental build that I'm going to test once 1.2 arrives? It's Anomaly Ben, but not your usual Anomaly build. This build is actually not mine, but my friend gave me the idea and it looks super promising. This is purely experimental and can go completely wrong. For these sets, you should go for Chaos Jazz 4-piece with Infernal Metal or Freedom Blues 2-piece effects. Use Anomaly Proficiency on disc 4, Fire Damage on disc 5, and Anomaly Mastery on disc 6. And for the weapons, Seth's signature weapon is the only option here. Otherwise, we're going to lack a lot of build-up. Let me know in the comments what do you think about this build, and if you're going to test it, jump into my Discord server so we can share finding about it. With all the possible builds explained, let's take a quick look on Ben's Mindscapes. Mindscape 1 is pretty average. It's going to help you with survivability, but that's all it's going to give you. Mindscape 2 is a miniature version of his signature weapon. It gives some extra damage, but as you can see here, it's not that much. Mindscape 4 rewards you for using his EX special on the right timing. It only increases the damage of the block counter. The follow-up damage is still the same. And finally, Mindscape 6 gives Ben a Shockstar Disco 4-piece effect after using his EX special. This way you can keep running Protopunk 4-piece, but also benefit from extra days on your basic attacks. And this sums up everything about Ben. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments down below or join my Discord server. As always, thanks for watching, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in my next video.